Good morning, folks. Good Lord. It is cold. It's in the 40 degrees. Battery's running a little bit low. I had to go outside to start the generator up. And I've got the heater going at the same time. I don't know how long before the carbon monoxide detector goes off. I really do need to get into a newer motorhome, but I'm going to do my best to fix this thing up because it's far more affordable. I'd love to do some fundraising. I'd like to get myself into newer, more stable digs. This rig is getting kind of awkward for me at this point. And I know a lot of you have expressed your condolences over the passing of my uncle. Well, passing of my uncle is a mixed thing. What I can tell you is that he, I don't want to say he cheated me, but he did, I guess. I don't like spitting that out. He actually had the old inheritance from the old family camp, which I screwed up on, I guess. When he called me in 1986, wanted me to take it, I couldn't afford to take it. Promised to take care of me down the road, but he's reneged on that promise. I can't tell how much of that is actually him, how much of that is his deteriorated health, Parkinson's, a little bit of Alzheimer's, and the fact that he was abused so badly at the end. And I can't tell how much of it was his Stockholm syndrome. I think that's what I'd like to attribute it to, but at this point, it doesn't matter. What matters is, well, basically picking up the pieces and moving on. And so I'm gonna ask for your help. I need to do a fundraiser. I need to raise some funds. I've got some. I've been working towards my goal for a bit. I found myself an old vintage motor coach that's available still, I think. I don't know if it's the ideal one or perfect one for me. They were asking, about $20,000 over the book price for it. But things are kind of collapsing right now, so they might take a reasonable price for it. So I need to raise some money for that. In this rig, I've got just 2 house batteries. I did finally discover a higher reserve battery, so they last a bit longer. And I've got a solar controller. It's an old one. Unfortunately, I don't have my tools handy so I can get into the panel. The fellow at Blue Sky was going to help me with setting the potentiometer so I could, what do they call that? Well, I want to say recharge, but it's, you rejuvenate the battery somehow on that. I can't remember what the word is. There's a particular word for it, but I have to turn it up to cook the batteries at a little higher voltage than what it's set for right now. And then when I'm in storage or parked into a park somewhere for a long period of time, I need to set it back down so it's not working so hard. It's equalizing is what they call it, and basically it gets rid of the deposits that are on the battery plates, and it helps your battery get a little bit more voltage and a little bit more life. And I've not gotten many years out of my batteries, maybe 3 at the most, because I'm full-time and I use this a little bit way too hard. And sadly, the generator, the choke is sticking. God, I spent $700 in this last year on service on it, getting it kind of rebuilt, and the chokes actually. And the real problem though is that my alarms have been going off. I've got an exhaust leak on it. So when I get into town, that's my #1 order of safety and repairs. Also, my batteries are, one of them, the mount is rusting out, and I got it strapped in right now, and my housekeeper and her husband tried to come up with a solution to shore it up, but I'm going to either have to find the old parts or have something welded to do that. And I'm definitely going to do that. It's not just a safety thing, but if I pass this thing on, I want to make sure, you know, to be fully honest about it and disclose the condition. So I've got to see what I can do to get, I think, a bar welded in there to support those, the one battery in particular on the passenger side in the front. And then I broke my steps again. I drove all day and all night going to my my aunt's funeral. I wanted to be there for my uncle, and man, I damn near slid into the state of Indiana, almost literally. It was dark. I usually don't drive in the dark. I was trying to get through Illinois. Illinois is not what I'm not comfortable in that country. I like Indiana, and I ended up hitting the brakes, changing lanes to avoid rear-ending the truck in front of me. At first, he just hit the brakes hard. We were on a bridge, and there were trees around us, and it was like we were in a tunnel, and I was not in good shape. I had driven too much. Anyway, I hit the brakes, thinking, this is it. I'm going to hit this guy. And so, at the same time I hit the brakes, I moved over to the left lane. You know, so I'm on the brakes, and I steered the rig to the left lane so I wouldn't rear end this truck. Their air brakes can stop faster than what my motorhome brakes can do. And I'll be damned if he didn't move over as well at the same time. And he stopped his truck in the middle of the bridge at an angle across both lanes. Now, you might have thought I might have been upset with him for doing that. Well, a little bit. But the crazy thing is that I stopped just short of hitting the side of his truck. I mean, I was right in to the side, right up in there. And if I hadn't moved over, I'd have definitely hit his rear end. And the way he stopped and the way he made the most out of the roadway, I think he must have been a real good driver, to be honest with you. And somebody up ahead of him hit the brakes and surprised him. And he just gave me enough room. I was able to stop. I was too tired that night, and I left the steps down, and I forgot to check them. And I started to leave after dropping my hydraulic jacks down. The steps hadn't retracted, and so they got caught again. So I busted the steps up again myself. I just fixed them a month earlier, spent almost $900 on the damn things. But so I get to fix them again, and that's the way it is. It's not a cheap lifestyle. The fuel in this rig, I've gotten as many as 10 miles to the gallon, but that's when I'm darn near empty and not carrying much water, much fuel, and not towing anything. Towing, it seems like if I'm doing lucky, I get 8.6 miles to the gallon, but that trip I ran somewhere around 7.4, 7.6. Not very good, to be honest with you. Not terribly badly. Most motorhomes with gas engines will get less than that. Horrible fuel hogs, but that's the way it is. I wanted to put in one of those hydrogen devices to feed hydrogen into the engine, and that would give me some more fuel efficiency. It takes a bit to put one of those in and to maintain it. But the real problem is that when I try to turn to people professionally to help me with that, these guys get whacked. They get killed. There was a police officer recently who was killed in a SWAT operation. Just happened to get killed 3 weeks ago. Just happened to have just patented an engine that ran on water. And of course there was Stanley Myers. And I think if anybody develops a water-powered car engine, they need to call it Myers after Stanley Myers. They killed Stanley Myers. Stanley Myers figured out how to actually how to alter old gas engines so that you could run them on water. They poisoned him. A couple of guys met him. I don't know if they were government agents or corporate agents, but he walked outside and claimed that they had poisoned him, and he died. And that was it. He wanted his patents to hit the market to help free up the world. But our keepers won't allow that. And also, talking to a truck driver this summer up in Michigan, you can hear the generator. It's running great. It's nice and smooth. And the blower will kick back on in a little bit. Sadly, the propane tank and the LP gas detector, which is also a carbon monoxide detector, that thing shuts off the LP gas, so I may not have heat after a little bit. But the nice thing is, at least I won't be getting carbon monoxide poisoning. And the carbon monoxide smoke detector up in the ceiling finally put some new batteries in it, and it goes off according to this as well. And the other carbon monoxide detector in the bedroom that's hardwired, well, I cut the wires because I got tired of listening to it. It's so loud. I'm gonna get the wires attached again on that thing when I get to my tools, and that's gonna chirp as well. So, you know, this thing's just not running right. I spent $900 on the generator service the year before, and before that I spent, I don't know, $1,500 and another $1,200 on the generator. It's an expensive lifestyle. It's not a cheap lifestyle. You would think it would be cheap. It used to be back when you could rent an RV space with full hookups for the night for $15. I don't think you can get one for less than $50 these days. And the nicer parks are running much, much more than that, $70. So, and there aren't enough RV parks right now. That's a nice business too. If you want to get into a business, would be to start one. The return on your investment is pretty damn high. It's like 15% per year. I don't know of any other business that you can invest in that's going to give you that kind of return on your money. So if you want to start an RV park, it's a good time to do it. There's more of us that have to live on what I would call the cheap. I have some saved up, and that's where the money is going to go to. The uncle departed under strange circumstances. I'll put it that way. Wealthy as could be, but it captured and suffering. I mean, suffering terribly. I got to observe him quite a bit, and I found it a bit disturbing to watch him splitting and going kind of in and out of phase, if you will, in and out of personalities and himself. Sometimes he was extremely present, almost agitated, and very, very, very intact, very intelligent, very concise in his communications. And other times he was go along, get along, because he'd been abused by his captors for so long. That's just the way it is, you know. It's a sad thing. Sadly, the abuse that's in the family, that's been running in the family, is so deep that one of the problems that happens with abused people, is they become abusers. They become manipulative, and it's really kind of sad. And I've been subject to that from a particular family member lately too, who it's best not to talk about these things at this point. But I found myself awake all night, almost all night. I did get to sleep, and I found myself mulling over particularly critical parts of my life that I don't have good memories of, parts of my life that I always had some confusion of, childhood stuff. And you know, and I'm praying to Yahweh to give me some relief on this stuff, because I don't have good memory. I don't know what I did, what others did. I mean, there are certain things, critical points in my life, where the memories are like, what happened? I was so young then. I just do not really recall. So I keep that between me and Yahweh. And I ask for resolution on that. That's all I can do. I know that this modern churchianity tells us that we have to forgive and we're not supposed to judge. And I disagree with that. Because if you read the New Testament, it says very clearly, I think it's Paul who says, don't you know you will judge angels? So we have to judge. We have to have good judgment. We have to render good judgment. But this modern churchianity stuff, has got us kind of hobbled because they tell us we're not supposed to judge. So we're not supposed to decide between right and wrong. We're not supposed to make fine discriminations in judgment and make the better choice. That's kind of what it gets down to. So our thinking gets slippery because, you know, who are you to judge me? You're not supposed to judge. Oh, really? Well, I think we are supposed to judge. And if we have problems, go to somebody you trust. I like to go to an older brother. I even go to the younger ones. I mean, that is in the faith. I like to go to the guys that have been reading the Bible longer. I treasure the moments I have with them because I know that they will be passing soon. And of course, I'll be passing soon as well. I'm not planning on going anywhere right away, but my mission in my life has sort of changed at this particular point. It's coming to full fruition for me. I'm going to be focusing on the family because the family needs shoring up. That's how we can restore our country. I'm going to be focusing on the Bible as well because I think it's the only way we get our way out of this whole mess. I think that we actually have to have Yahweh on our side, or we have to be on Yahweh's side to get through this whole thing. I think we're going to be reduced much more. I know we're suffering right now. I know it's difficult times, but they're going to crack it down upon us even further. The beast system is still intact. I've identified the second beast for you the other day from Revelations 13:13. It calls down fire in front of men from heaven, and we've had that going on the planet for 22 years or so now. They've been doing that, using those weapons, and they're doing it in front of us now. We've got the evidence, we see it, we have the videos, and there's not much we can do about it. And of course, you're going to say, well, gee, Dr. Kent, that's the second beast. What about the first beast? The blower just shut off. The heat's at my back. It feels good right here. Yeah, I'm going to burn the propane up here. I'm going to be getting off the mountains. I'm running out of a particular blood pressure medicine, and I think it's waiting for me down in the valley. It's a little warm down there. I'm going to go down on Wednesday, I think, is the last day for medicine for me. So I'll be going in there pretty soon. I don't save much money by being up here. It's only maybe $250 a month that I might save being up here. But, you know, the gas prices in Flagstaff are higher. All the prices in Flagstaff are higher. The minimum wage in Flagstaff, a business owner told me yesterday, because I told him that's the most I've ever spent on a milkshake. It was like $7.67. Whoa! And I told him that's the most I've ever spent. I knew they made a better one, but sadly I had to take care of other business. And by the time I got ready to drink it, it was chocolate milk, and it wasn't nowhere near as good as it would have been cold. I turn to those for a little bit of comfort. I do that when I'm stressing and when I've accomplished something. It does downregulate me to eat that heavy food that's not exactly good for you. It's kind of like dross, kind of like poison. It's kind of a downer. It kind of downregulates me, and after I've been working at something or something's bothered me quite a bit. So I admit, I have my habits that I turn to, and that's a problem we all have, is we all have habits that we turn to de-stress ourselves. And unfortunately, some of those are bad habits. Some of those are nasty habits that we turn to. And the sad thing is that we all have to have some relief. And so in that, perhaps we shouldn't be so judgmental. You know, some of us are so sensitive. The young woman in the middle of the country who's cut herself off from the world is so sensitive. It's painful, but she has some difficulties, and she's real sensitive, and it's sad. A lot of people who are turning to dope and turning to other things, bad habits, they're real sensitive, and they just can't handle it. You know, anxiety is the #1 thing that appears in the clinical setting. It's more common than depression. I know depression is bannered about as you know, being the disease that we suffer from, but you have to realize, folks, we are a suffering lot. We are a suffering sort. That's the way we were designed. And so we're supposed to suffer occasionally. Yes, regularly. And we're supposed to have joys occasionally, regularly. And you don't get one without the other. And that's the problem with this modern medicine that most of these mass shooters are on, and the school shooters are almost all on, is that by chopping off the lows, they also lose the highs. That's the easiest way to generalize it, but basically what we've seen is that people on long-term SSRI treatment they lose the ability to love. They can't love. They can't attach positively to another person. Of course, you're going to say, well, should we blame them for that, or do we blame the medication? Well, the problem is they're dangerous to others. And so we don't have a choice but to beware of them. And anybody that's on a modern SSRI should not be allowed to possess firearms, in my honest opinion, while they're under treatment. And Big Pharma lies. They tell us today that once you start taking this, you're going to need it for the rest of your life. Well, why do they tell you that? It's not because of any good science. It's because it's good business. It's because they're making money, because they got you for life. And what they also don't tell you is it causes a permanent chemical imbalance, so you can't operate without their drug. It's a damn addiction. And the only advantage of the SSRI class of medication over the previous class of antidepressant medication, the tricyclics, is the tricyclics, you could overdose on those, and you can't overdose on the SSRI class. The tricyclics were also addictive, but at least back then, the general guideline clinically was a trial period of not less than 6 months nor more than 1 year. And I think that's what should be applying to the modern SSRIs. The standard practice should be, we recommend not less than 6 months, because it's not worth doing for less than 6 months. It takes you a little while to accommodate and get used to it. And then hopefully during that next 6 months, you get to do some work with a therapist, that you get to work through your issues, that you somehow get the shoring up that you need, and then you quit the stuff. That's the ideal place for the medicines. But they lie because they want to make money. And so they will tell you, you stay on this for life, because we know you're going to be depressed again. Well, hell yes, you're going to be depressed again. You're a human being. You're designed to suffer. You're designed to have joys. You're designed to have both. And you got to have both. You got to have a balance. So I'm putting the link to donations in the description down here, down below. I don't know if there's any gifts been given there. I don't check on the account much. I really don't want to. And I don't ask for huge gifts. I mean, just small stuff would be really helpful. And let it add up. How much money do I need to raise? Well, they want $120,000 for that motorhome. It Blue Books at $100,000. I haven't seen it yet. I need to check into it and do a little bit more research, because I want to make sure it's the right one. And the problem is, when you buy the old rigs, they break. And you have to fix them up too. So I was looking at rigs in the $40,000 to $50,000 range. Then all of a sudden the prices went up, and they were up to $70,000, $80,000, and they're still up at that range. These people think that they're worth that much, but the book values are like $50,000, and they want $70,000 or $80,000. Invariably, they don't tell you the full truth. They don't give you full disclosure. And there's something wrong with the rig, and you have to fix it. Something will break on you in short order. Sometimes they've been sitting, and it's only when you start using them that they break again. So looking at it, my guideline before was you needed to have 3-fold. So you wanted 50 to buy the rig, about 50 to fix it up, and have 50 on the side so you could repair whatever comes along. That's the problem with the diesel rig. It's very expensive, yet the fuel efficiency is there. the weight capacity, carrying capacity is there. So you actually, it's about a break-even thing. It's not really a money saver. It becomes more of a luxury thing. But if you're full-time, and if you're like me, you want to carry a full tank of water all the time, and full fuel if you can do it, then you need the diesel rig in particular. And I'm looking at one with the tag axle, so it's going to cost more to maintain. Another pair of tires, another pair of brakes, another pair of shocks, another pair of airbags. But it has better carrying capacity, far greater stability, better braking ability on the road. And it's really the top way to go down the road. I want to travel the country if I can. It looks like they're going to be shutting down travel on us, so I'm not holding on to this desire, if you will. I want to be able to go to the Midwest. I don't think I'll be going back to New Hampshire. There's absolutely no family for me there anymore. Everybody has passed away. Yeah, there were a couple of people that I really would like to get to know better. There is some distant family there that I just started to talk to them during this funeral and hang out with them, and really nice people. But I was run off again, and that's okay. I understand the days they want to get it all, and they're getting it all from what I can see. I'm not going to be able to put up any kind of a fight over that. I don't see much reason to do it, to be honest with you. I'm reviewing my life and looking at the family and looking at the family dynamics. It's like the Kent line will end with me. Actually, that's not completely accurate. There is a young Kent man who I believe's had a family already. I think he's in Massachusetts. I met his father, and several times I met my great-uncle George Kent. Looked so much like my grandfather, Ralph Kent, it was uncanny. And George Kent actually went to Alaska first when it was a territory, and he lost a hand and forearm in a sawmill accident in Ketchikan a long time ago. He married a woman, had a son. I think that they divorced, and his son, who I finally met at the funeral for my grandmother, Ione Griffin Kent, he married a black woman first, and they had two sons, two boys. One of them went through the ice and drowned in the wintertime, and the other boy survived. And at that funeral, it's been quite a while, he said, he told me, I told him, you know, I was worried about carrying on the family name at the time, and I had no idea I was going to end up going down this road alone and being alone at this point. But those are the choices I made. Anyway, I believe his son had a young lady and she's married, so the Kent name is being carried on in that manner in Massachusetts. I don't know who they are, so if you know who they are, somebody put me in touch with that fellow and his family. I'd like to at least get to know them. You know, they might be really nice people. I hope so. My family of origin and my extended family they had difficulties. Let me put it that way. I don't have much of the New England ways left in me. They are kind of an uppity crowd, kind of stuffy. They like to talk around subjects rather than being direct and honest about them. The country varies so much across the charts. Every part of the country has its strengths and its weaknesses. Anyway, I expect that, you know, that I will be the last of the Kents from this particular family line pretty soon. My brother's just a little bit younger than I am, but he has other beliefs than I have, so he's availed himself of all the modern medical practices, and he's already had a a blood clot in his lungs. So, you know, and he'll probably update his vaccines with all this other stuff coming along. I think that's kind of a sad state of affairs, but that's the way it is. You know, this COVID did break up families quite a bit, put families at each other's throats. I had a niece who insisted you had to wear a face mask, dress up like a bandit all the time, and I disagreed. It wasn't scientific. It was not merited, and I could see the writings on the wall very clearly that this was the beginning of the takedown of America, and which is ongoing, and everything is set up. They are going to take us down. They are going to put us into a complete disarray and disorganization. They will be putting us at each other's throats. We've already been at each other's throats. Remember, the bankers, when they took over, they also created the police state. They also created, well, the Anti-Defamation League, which has been functioning as their brains, if you will, as their intelligence agency, feeding our government and other governments information about the rest of us. And so the FBI has been planning people inside organizations, their agents everywhere, supposedly to take care of our security. But when we look at the pattern and the trends, they actually were there to split us up and divide us. They would create this group over here, and they'd create the other opposite group on the other side, so they would be able to fight against each other. So that's what your FBI has done to the country. I've hung around in enough oddball groups, I guess I'm an oddball myself, that I have been able to watch some of these things, and I had a woman send an FBI agent my way to try to infiltrate Christian identity. I don't like the moniker. I don't like the name, because it implies Christian identity movement, which sounds like a political movement or a cult. I prefer to call it biblical Christianity, or Israelite Christianity. We are going to cover this stuff in detail so that you will understand all of the stuff that they've used to pull the wool over our eyes and how they fooled us. We have been set up. And in case you want to know, the day that I figured the Republic went away was March 4th of 1813. Why that particular date? That's the date that the Congress set the attorneys, the Bar Association members, in violation of the original 13th Amendment. The original 13th Amendment had been fully ratified and passed, and the purpose of it was so that the attorneys, the Bar Association members, would not be able to get us into another war like the War of 1812, which they got us into. And basically, Bar means British Accreditation Regency. And so these are the king's agents lording it over us here in the Americas. And so they've always been loyal to the British crown. And also, by the way, your CIA was started as the OSS, was started by Lord Stevenson, a British man. So the British started our secret intelligence agency, and they never gave it to us. They've always been in there. So they've always had control over that. And even President Bush was cited, and I'm talking about the younger one, as walking the shores somewhere in the States here with the Queen of England and making the statement, well, this was always yours. So they know who they're beholding to, who's been running the country all of these years. It was the British Crown. And I believe that started with Ben Franklin signing the Treaty of Paris, because the gentleman with whom he signed the treaty had two hats. One was representing the King of England, and the other one being the exchequer, the financial officer for the Pope. And so when we signed that document, I don't know if Franklin was aware of it or not, but he started a corporation under the British Crown which was under the Pope. All of these corporations are under the Pope. So, you know, in case you're wondering, when you look at the beast system, the head that was asleep in the middle, that represents the Vatican. I say Rome sometimes, but it represents the Vatican, it represents the Pope, and that becomes active towards the end. And the other two heads would be Washington, D.C., and that little tiny city of London inside what we call London. It is the financial district, and even the Queen or the King has to stop at the border of that district and get permission from the mayor to enter this new kingdom that's within his kingdom. So, and that's the way it is in Washington, D.C. It's a separate place. It was 10 square miles set up in the middle of the country, and they used that over time with different corporations to create democracy for that 10 square miles, which has exceeded its bounds and now runs the whole country. I hope I'm making it clear here. I had a vision for the United States of America, and in this vision I was high up over the continent, up in the air. I had a good view of the world from there, at least a good perspective. And I saw the American flag pop up in one of the western provinces of Canada. I swear it was Alberta. It wasn't even the one next to our border. It was Alberta, Canada, that was flying our flag. Then I saw another American flag pop up over another province. And I'm going to guess maybe Saskatchewan, because it wasn't British Columbia, I know that. And I saw another American flag pop up over another Canadian province on the western side. And eventually, British Columbia was flying the flag. We had the Yukon, of course. It's the nicest part of Canada, as far as I'm concerned. It's a beautiful country. And I used to think, I used to interpret this vision, this dream, as we had reestablished our republic, and it was so good and so strong and allowed so much freedom for peoples that they adopted our way and became other states under us, with us. Now, I'm beginning to think that salvation might be coming from Alberta. I've heard the Canadians feeling sorry for us in America, and they want to come down and help us and rescue us. I wouldn't mind that. I think that the western part of Canada, the English-speaking part of Canada, should probably join up with the United States of America. But at this point, we don't deserve it. We aren't a republic. We don't have a rule of law hardly at all. The courts that we have take statutory pleas. They don't take common law pleas, which means basically that there are no rights in these courts. They're not proper courts. And it means since 1964, about the same time they took prayer out of the schools, and we saw a massive spike in crime. It means that in 1964, there was a subtle change. And some of these prosecutors that are retired are shocked when they realize that what they did was railroad all of these men into the prisons. They didn't give them their full rights, which in itself was a crime. So it's a very mixed up world at this point. It's very confused. I advocate that you get the proper name version of the King James Bible and you read it. I do believe that when you read it and you decide you're going to work for Yahweh, that Yahweh will bless you back. I think that's a good thing. I think that's a really good thing. I think that he will fight for us. Most of you who tuned in here already know that we are the great Israelite nation prophesied in the book of Genesis a long time ago. One of Joseph's two sons would become the great nation, get the seed blessing, and that was the United States of America. and the other boy became a company of nations, and that was Great Britain. Both countries at this point have been taken over by the evil ones. And if you want to understand the evil ones more, then look at the second beast. There are two horns, like the horns of a sheep. This is a people that pretends to be the victims, but yet they are dragons. They speak with the voice of a dragon. They have great power. They pretended to be the victims because it's a sociopathic culture. And when they have you focused upon helping them, they render us defenseless, and then they can take advantage of us. And so that's what they've done to America as a whole. We've been too busy defending them, thinking that we're doing it in the name of freedom and democracy, when actually what we've done is we've opened ourselves up and exposed ourselves so that we have been taken down. All of these major sins in the Bible, these old sins, this group of people have brought upon us here and tricked us into doing those things. And so that's how we have hurt ourselves. That's how we have played into their hands, as we've gone along with the error of Balaam and Achan. We've gone along with those two things, and with Cain, with what Cain did as well. So you need to understand that those are three great areas of sin that we have fallen into. And the sad thing is that we have shed more innocent blood in the United States of America than any other nation in the planet. And I'm not talking about the bloodshed from war. I'm talking about the bloodshed from the abortions. Every day we lose as many innocent lives as we did on 9/11 on that one day. So that level of a catastrophe occurs daily, every day in this nation. And it says right in there, Yahweh hates the shedding of innocent blood. So you need to understand who you're serving. You need to understand what you've been suckered into doing and worshiping. You need to understand that overcoming is going to be a difficult thing. Handing your life over to Yahshua so that he can guide you to Yahweh, who is our salvation. It's not easy. You do need to sit down and read the Bible so you won't be as deceived as often, as easily. We live in an age of grand deceptions, deceptions upon deceptions. We also live in an age of oppression, and the oppression is just getting started. It's a characteristic of the beast system, and so this oppression is going to be getting much worse. Me, I'm very content knowing what I have and knowing that my reward is with Yahweh. It's not that I'm subject to inaction based upon that because I don't have judgment, or I'm afraid to judge, or because I'm not supposed to judge. I do judge. But I do not seek vengeance. I do not rebel. Yahweh doesn't bless rebellion. And I sit back, begging Yahweh to intervene, realizing that I got a mission to do, and that the most important thing is that we arm ourselves up with the Word, that we turn to the Word, we immerse ourselves in the Word, and we abide by all of the commandments, all of the lessons in the Bible, that we actually extract lessons for character building in particular, because that's what we can act upon most directly. I know about personality disorders, personality styles, and I know that those things can be very difficult to change. But the fact is that when you work on character building, you get to change every bit of it. And your thinking will clear up, and your emotional stability gets better as well. You need to understand that the weaponry that's been used upon us for a long time is extremely sophisticated. It is very silent but deadly. And they've been doing this to us for a long time. Now, I also advocate for the Navage system. I don't know if anybody's been buying it on my link. I haven't called them up. I'd like to use it twice a day. Now, you may wonder who the first beast is. It's got the wounded head. I'm going to point to your previous president. I think he's going to become president again. I'm hoping that he might convert over and join us. The biggest sign to me that he was an outsider was when they stopped spraying us. However, that relief lasted only about 6 months. Another time they stopped spraying us was after 9/11. That was wonderful to see blue skies again. But they spray us. And they started spraying us in about June after Trump had taken office. And that to me was the sign that they had bought him off. He was one of them. So do I trust him? Not much. Do I think he's Yahweh's agent? Yeah, he could be. Do I think Biden is Yahweh's agent? Please, Lord. Please, Lord, give us some relief from this level of oppression. You see, they started that Great Depression with high energy costs, just like this thing that's going on right now. And so the energy costs are just starting to ratchet up. We need energy. We do, and we need it affordable. It's what helps everything in this economy. However, we need Yahweh. We need to return to our roots. We are the people with whom he made the original deals, the original covenants, and with whom he made the new covenant as well. So we need to wake up and realize these subtle truths that have been hidden from us. You need to understand several things. If you read the Old Testament, you'll realize it was a patriarchy. When you look at Judaism today, do you see a patriarchy? I do not. I see a matriarchy. But when I look at America today, do I see a patriarchy? No, I do not. I see a matriarchy. And I think there's a problem in that. You know, people have turned to worshiping the Queen of Heaven. That's what's going on. And the problem is, all hell breaks loose under those circumstances. And these jackasses that own the planet and run it today are killing the earth. They're destroying the earth's ability to support life. So, you use Navage to clear out your nose so you don't get this crap they're spraying us with stuck in you and going deep inside of you. And you keep that toxic load down. That's very important. There's no telling what they're spraying. I'm not even going to try to guess. There's no telling at all. We have lab results, lab reports. You can go do that research. And also, they're spraying the food. They're putting things in the food, growing it. Actually, it was the Japanese that started that about 1900. They grew something genetically modified that was really bad for the rest of us. You need to understand, all of these governments around the planet are taken over. This second beast has 2 horns of a sheep. One horn is in communist China. I'm speaking on a kind of a gross level right now. The other horn is in the United States of America. The 2 horns working together against the rest of the planet, the rest of us. And their target right now is to take down America because we're the last hope for the little guy around the planet. And so it's not all of Americans. It's not all the Chinese. It's a small group. Very small groups in each place. And these people have got their confederates in the heads of all governments. Places of authority. In the mountains, in the lofty mountains. Everywhere across the planet. They've taken over everything. It's gross subterfuge all over the place. And they are extremely, extremely destructive. They have set up the United States of America and the rest of the world for another worldwide depression. And they're probably going to pull the plug anytime. They have the power to do it. Our congressmen, our politicians made sure to stay out of their way. That last one was facilitated by, I think his name was Paulson, Secretary of the Treasury. He set up the stage so that they could do all that corrupt theft. Nothing's changed since then. We didn't even have an investigation last time. They didn't even have to cover it up. It's all still in place. And there was more criminality in 2008, 2009 than there was in 1929. The techniques are not really easy to understand, but they're not hard to understand. You really have to apply yourself. I hope you will apply yourself and you will understand the biblical principles that we need to live by if we're going to get Yahweh back or if we're going to join Yahweh. Work on the right side. I don't think we win without Yahweh. And for 2,500 years, his name was removed from the Bible. Even that was prophesied by Jeremiah in the Old Testament, probably about 300 years before Ptolemy II removed it from the Bible in 275 BC. In Alexandria, when he had the Greek text, the Septuagint, translated, they took out the name Yahweh. That's when it was lost. And Jeremiah said in Egypt, how the heck did Jeremiah know? When was Jeremiah alive? About the time of the captivity, 722 BC. You can do the math better than I can, probably. We've got the proper name in there. We've got a more accurate Bible. It is a great help. I make fewer assumptions, fewer erroneous assumptions, reading this modern English version, the proper name version of the King James Bible. So I really feel fortunate to be able to bring that to you. The prices are low. If this war kicks off, the supplies are going to dry up. Prices will go up. With inflation taking off, I think once the stores get down, once the stocks get diminished on these Bibles, prices will have to go up to get the job done. They're printed up in Belarus by a really fine family who loves doing this work. Folks, we have brothers and sisters all over this planet. And they, the evil ones that are at the top predating on the rest of us, they put us at war against each other. They love doing that. They love seeing us kill each other. It's a real turn on for them. Show number 51, I've not viewed it myself. It's my practice to view everything first before I put it up. This is show number 52. This is where I begin asking you for help. Help me build this ministry. I have another product I want to bring aboard that I have great faith in. I have to get off my duff and call the manufacturer to see if they would give me a link and a commission and allow me to sponsor their product. I think it's done amazing things for my own health, and sadly I'm about out of the bottle. And it's cheap, and it works pretty doggone good. I think it might be in the Bible, actually, but I'm not sure just yet. I've been talking to some brothers trying to figure out if this stuff is what might have been referred to back then. But we know that it works good and it's cheap, and it helps prevent the pestilence. And then I also want to offer some merchandise. I have 2 wonderful things to put on t-shirts that I really want to get out there. So I've got to find myself a good vendor and see what kind of a contract I can set up. I haven't been a good businessman, and I haven't done a good job of protecting myself at all. As you can see, with my uncle's passing and that massive amount of wealth he put together, which I don't even get what I had coming from my grandfather that he promised to take care of me on. I can't tell where his the Stockholm Syndrome begins and ends. I can't tell where his deterioration at 98, he made 98, where that begins and ends. I can tell you this, that I am highly bothered that neither he nor nor his second wife, neither he nor my aunt have made it. He's not visited me. Even if he was angry, he could visit me if he made it. We're going to be going over that. It's in the apocryphal books. But upon passing, a person who has made it gets to travel wherever they want for a week. They get to look at the reward that they have coming, the reward that they've earned. They get to see that. They get to go wherever they want. My grandfather Charette and his wife, the indicators are they made it. He visited me right after he passed. I'm ever so grateful for that. That to me let me know that, yeah, there's more. Also, I had my own, not quite face-to-face, but my own confrontation a long time ago, in which I was commanded at age 19 that it wasn't my time, and I had to come back. So I'm going to do my best to abide by Yahweh's will. We're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff to save this nation, if she can be saved. Restoring the republic, if we can do that. But you folks need to know something. They've been waging chemical, biological, and electrical warfare on us, and radiation warfare on us for a long time. The spiritual warfare is not as nebulous as you think. It's not as, mamby-pamby as you might think, might hope it is. It's not at all. It's quite serious. Now, when I was younger and stronger, I stopped counting at about the 11th or 13th dimension. Some people say there are 10 dimensions. Well, I stopped counting at 11 or 13. I don't remember. It was quite a while back. I don't have the brain power to do basic math anymore, but, I was pretty skilled at one time. And so this, you think that there's nothing here but atoms, and when you look at the atoms and the little particles, there's more space between those than there is matter, if you will, because this is energy. It's electromagnetic. Anyway, that empty space, I don't think it's empty. I think that's where the parallel universes are. I think that's where the good angels and the demons hang out at. I think there are other dimensions there, and these beings are totally aware of you and I, and they walk freely among us, maybe right through us. Maybe they have that capacity. So you have to keep your mind open. Well, you don't have to, but I recommend you do it. Don't let it be open too far. Get yourself grounded in the Word. Get yourself a set of values. Be willing to discern right from wrong, good from evil. Be willing to turn to Yahweh if you have to for help in making a decision. There's going to be some really tough times. I like to ask Him to take over the reins completely and take charge of it. I try to surrender. I get carried away in myself once in a while, and I forget to ask. But I ask for help pretty much daily. So I would ask for your prayers to Yahweh, to give me good judgment. Help me make the right choices. Help me to modulate myself properly and be able to stay on an even keel, to be able to avoid turning to bad habits, avoid getting overly excited, avoid being deceived, and some protection from the oppression. The evil ones have got us all mapped out and marked at this point. They know who we are. They've had this system up and running for quite a while. They've kept it very secret from us. 80% of the electricity consumed in the United States of America is consumed in these data farms. Your police state, your electronic leashes. They're spending more money on that electricity than on anything else combined. Anything else. 80% goes to power up those data mining farms. That's how important that data is, and that's how all-pervasive they are. So when you think something's happening by accident around you, oh no, it could be their machine cranked up and working on you. Yeah, could be. This is number 52. Thank you for joining me. If you do like the video, if you hung with me this long, you might as well subscribe. If you have ideas, promptings, if the Holy Spirit gives you a message to give me, or if you think that's the case even, feel free to contact me. Leave comments. I see the negative ones. I do try to censor the Satan worshipers out of here. At some point, I'll probably have to shut off comments. That's what's happened with a lot of Bible-based channels, is they have to shut off the comments because they get pretty doggone out there. May Yahweh bless.